Il vient parfois un moment dans l'histoire, un moment rare où nous passons de l'ancien au nouveau, où une ère prend fin et où l'esprit d'une nation, longtemps réprimée, parvient enfin à s'exprimer.
Scope of the games are always the same. You have Stone Age to Space Age and everything in between. There's a lot of room to try out new things in there, and I think every designer has different ideas on what they'd like.
Les grandes questions de notre époque ne trouveront pas de réponse dans les discours et les votes de majorité, mais dans le faire et le sang.
So there's a few really big changes that we're excited about. The biggest one is probably the move from stacked combat to one unit per tile. That means that you can't just pile a bunch of units into one location and then send off that stack of doom, as we like to call it, to go and try and conquer your enemy's cities. You have to think about the terrain more tactically and protect your vulnerable range units from the enemy. So that's a very big change. Additionally, we've added city-states to the game, which are small powers that aren't trying to win, that exist kind of to make your game more interesting. They can be befriended, they can be conquered, and what's really interesting is when you, say, ally with a city-state and then another player tries to conquer them, you have the decision to make whether you want to protect them or not. The hexes do a couple things for us. Anybody who's familiar with Civilization already knows that all the previous games had squares or isometric diamonds, and there was a few problems with those. First, the squares don't look as good as the hexes in terms of how organic and how realistic they seem. The 90-degree angles on the squares just aren't that attractive. It looks more like a board than it looks like the real world. So the visual look of the game is improved. Additionally, in terms of gameplay, the clarity of the map is better. You can always see when a unit can pass through an area because there are no corners that can be confusing. Every tile shares a full side, so it's very clear when a unit can move and when it can't.